husband got eaten by a cat. Their life was so glamorous, but now they're living in a mess. In a cinder block on a farm, the farmers could do them harm. Oh, what can they do? I'd bugger out of there if I were you. Love kills. Love kills. Love kills. Mr. Brisby was so smart, they shot some dope into his heart. Left his wife and children too, but now the youngest one's got the flu. With the help of a fella crow, Mrs. Brisby needs to know the secret of him to save a home and to cure him. Love kills. Love kills. Love kills.
Yeah, that was really awesome, Mr. British Guy. Truly hardcore.
Salutations, hardcore kid. Now where's my pay?
Alright. Keep your trousers on. Here you go.
What the bloody hell is this?
I'm paying you in gum. Mint flavored.
This gum is ABC.
Oh no, I guarantee that gum is 100% XYZ. Or should I say XYZ?
Your American antics.
British people are so stupid. Hello, I'm the Hardcore Kid. Hardcore enough to review kid stuff. And today, we're going back. Way back. To 1982. By now, I'm sure everyone is familiar with Don Bluth. He did animation work for many Disney films in the 70s, then went on to make some of his own animated movies in the 80s, like An American Tail and The Land Before Time, as well as working on video games like Dragon's Lair and Space Ace. His career would then crumble in the 90s with flops like Thumbelina and Troll in Central Park, before finally filing for bankruptcy after the flop of 2000's Titan AE. It was a rough career, but you still have to applaud Bluth for at least offering us with some fond memories of some truly memorable kids' movies. Memories of which consist of this dark and edgy feel. None of that sugar-coated bullshit you'd usually see on Cartoon Network or Disney nowadays. In fact, not only is this movie I'm reviewing dark and edgy, but it's also Don Bluth's very first feature film. And it's entitled Secret of NIMH. Damn my inability to pronounce hard words. It's a movie starring a bunch of talking mice. And one of those mice happens to be the main character of the film. Her name is Mrs. Brisby. Now, this movie is actually based on a novel by Robert O'Brien called Mrs. Frisbee and the Rats of that word. Believe it or not, there was actually a bit of controversy regarding Mrs. Frisbee's name, so it had to be changed to Brisby to avoid infringing the trademark of Frisbees. Ah, yes. Back then, not even your own household appliances were safe from the wrath of those copyright Nazis. Oh, hi, big metal thing on giant wooden stick. So the movie begins with an old wizard-like rat named Nicodemus, riding inside a book with magic dust. It's a short, but truly fascinating scene with amazing animation, from the flash effects of the magic dust moving across the screen to the sparkly shine from the pendant. And remember, this is all from 1982. Effects like these today would just be made in CGI. My point exactly. We then cut to the Fitzgibbons farm, where we see Mrs. Brisby inside a giant farm machine, talking to another rat named Mr. Aegis.
Confounded machine. You never know when it's going to up and blow.
Yes. I don't suppose you would remember me.
But I used to follow you back in '63. As it turns out, Mrs. Brisby's husband Jonathan has passed away, and now her youngest son Timmy is sick with pneumonia. So Mr. Aegis brings Mrs. Brisby into his top secret laboratory. He tells her that her son needs to stay in bed for 3 weeks. If he leaves the house, the open breeze will kill him. However, moving day begins soon, and the Brisbys need to move to a new home before the farmer's plow comes. So Mr. Aegis gives Mrs. Brisby a special medicine for her son. On the way back to her home, she finds a crow tangled up in a string.
Is everything all right here?
What the? Oh, lady, don't sneak up on me like that.
You look more like you're all tangled up.
Yeah, I guess that's enough exercise for one day. Besides, I'm really after this terrific string. I'm working on a love nest for 2.
Oh, I see. You have a girl.
And when I find her, I'll feel it way down in my wishbone.
A sex joke in a G-rated movie. Oh, censorship, you can kiss my German ass. So yeah, this crazy crow was named Jeremy, voiced by the late Dom DeLuise in his first Don Bluth film. And surely not his last. So Mrs. Brisby gets Jeremy untangled when... So after a brutal encounter with the Fitzgibbons cat Dragon, Mrs. Brisby manages to escape and Jeremy recovers her son's medicine. Cut to the Brisby household in a cinder block, where we're introduced to Auntie Shrew, as well as the rest of Mrs. Brisby's family, Timothy's sisters, Teresa and Cynthia, and his older brother Martin, voiced by Aqualad himself, Will Wheaton.
I'm not afraid of the dark.
What?
I'm not afraid of the farmer.
I can't hear.
I'm not even scared of dragon. I'm not even afraid of the great owl.
Will you hush up?
You hush up.
Shut up, Wesley.
So Mrs. Brisby shows up with the medicine that she gives to a bedridden Timmy. Timmy!
I'd wish by day love begins this way. Night's a friend with love to send. Each new day. Bless you, heart. Bless you, soul.
No, I'm not crying. I'm just overcome by the sadness of this scene. I mean, really, it makes you wonder whether or not Timothy is actually going to survive. It's a first taste of the dark and emotional tone that Bluth's movies have. It makes itself seriously, like you'd see in a real-life drama. It's hardcore, but in a dark, more sophisticated way. But the next day, Mrs. Brisby finds out that Farmer Fitzgibbon has suddenly gotten his tractor running.
Oh! Run! The plow is here! Run for your lives! Run! It's moving day!
You know, Fitzgibbon must not take very good care of his crops, considering he has all those animals running around in it. I guess that would explain all the brown spots in the wheat. But now the tractor is heading straight for the Brisby home. And Timmy. Timmy! For Smeg's sake, is that going to keep happening every time I say the name Timmy? Timmy! Mood killer. So in order to save Timothy, Mrs. Brisby and Auntie Shrew climb onto the tractor and disconnect the fuel line so the tractor can't move. Hooray! Timothy is saved!
The great owl would know what to do about this.
So by the word and pretty colors of Nicodemus, Jeremy flies Mrs. Brisby out to meet the great owl. They soon arrive in a dark, scary wood and come across a giant gnarled tree. Inside the tree we get spooky imagery consisting of spider webs, rat skeletons, and of course, a giant spider.
He's crawling up my wall, black and hairy, very small. Now he's up above my head, hanging by a little thread. Oh, is the spider? Oh, is the spider?
So we finally come face to face with the great owl. And he is one scary motherfucker. 100 times the size of Mrs. Brisby, big, bright yellow eyes, large claws, crushing spiders, eating moths.
Brisby? Mrs. Jonathan Brisby?
Why, yes. He was my husband. But how do you know about him?
His name is not unknown in these woods.
Please, I'll do anything to save Timmy.
Go to the rats.
But I don't know any rats.
In the rose bush. Ask for Nicodemus.
Nicodemus?
Yeah, he's my half-brother. He's old, got big yellow eyes, kind of like me, except he's a rat. My mother was very picky.
The great owl tells Mrs. Brisby that they need to physically move the Brisby house away from the plows, and Nicodemus is the only one who can do it. The next day, Mrs. Brisby searches the brush while Jeremy... what?
Oh, excuse me, pardon me.
Jeremy. Can't live with you, can't live without you. And that's what I really like about Jeremy. Amongst the dark overtones and sad images, you have Jeremy appearing, lighting up the audience with comic relief, so that the film isn't so downbeat throughout the 80-minute runtime. One running gag I find especially funny is how Jeremy is always getting caught or tangled up in something, whether it be string, cobwebs, and even an old dress. Gee, with that luck, just pray he doesn't end up meeting Pinhead. Gabba gabba hey. So Mrs. Brisby crawls into the thicket bush, which is overrun by strange animate plants and bright colors. She finally discovers a giant magic albino pinecone, and then finds this guy.
Hello. I'm Mrs. Brisby. I was told to see Nicodemus. Are you Nicodemus?
Chew trident, bitch!
But Mrs. Brisby escapes and runs into Mr. Aegis again.
I went to see the great owl, and he said I should ask for Nicodemus.
Yes, I know Nicodemus.
He lives with the rats.
More specifically, he's the leader of the rats.
You know him?
No one has ever seen the owl and lived to tell about it.
Please, could you take me to see Nicodemus?
Yes. But for your sake, I hope you're telling the truth.
What about the large rat at the entrance? I can't go back there.
Oh, that's just Brutus.
Okay, so, is there any particular reason why Brutus the guard rat would just randomly attack the wife of Jonathan Brisby? Did Jonathan screw his girlfriend? Does he have an attack-at-will policy? Or is his brain being possessed by the ultimate warrior?
Come on in! We're nightmares on the best part of my day!
So Mr. Aegis brings Mrs. Brisby to the home of Nicodemus.
It's the most beautiful sight I've ever seen.
I don't know, Mrs. B. I'm starting to get Dream Master vibes. It's here that we're introduced to a rat named Justin, leader of the Guards of Rats.
Justin, Mrs. Brisby.
Mrs. Jonathan Brisby.
Yes, the same.
It is an honor and a privilege, my lady.
If we could dispense with the formalities.
How beautiful.
Ma'am?
The lights. They're quite lovely.
Yes, they are. We've had electricity for 4 years now.
5.
Jonathan often spoke of electricity.
But you see, our shame is that we're stealing it from Farmer Fitzgibbons.
Stealing?
All of that is going to change.
He means we're working on a plan.
I mean that we have a plan. And this stealing will stop.
With this plan, we'll get free HD TV channels, plus HBO and Cinemax for just $9.95 extra. Together, they lead Mrs. Brisby down to the council meeting where they find the rat Jenner bitching his ass off.
Hear me. The Thorn Valley Plan is the aspiration of idiots and dreamers. We were just talking about you.
Yeah, you can see just by looking at his face he's the villain. Yeah, don't fuck with me, dude. Basically, he's rambling about the rats trying to move away to a new area called Thorn Valley, and instead insists that the rats rebel against the humans to keep their ground.
I smell an opportunity. What? Maneuvers of this nature are dangerous. Accidents could happen.
Accident? Jenner? I'll explain later. Mrs. Brisby, 1,000 pardons, my dear. Forgive the ill temper of my colleague. It would be an honor to assist Jonathan's widow in any way. We are but your humble servants.
Yup, plus I'm the villain. Don't forget that.
Mrs. Brisby leaves, and Mr. Aegis finally leads her to Nicodemus.
This is Jonathan Brisby. What an honor this is.
How is it that everyone knows Jonathan?
He was a great friend to the rats of NIMH. He himself came from NIMH.
Majesty, my family...
I know of your needs. There is a book there. Read the words.
I can read a little. Jonathan taught me.
So Mrs. Brisby is able to read the words in the book, which explains about how everyone knows her husband Jonathan and how he died trying to poison Dragon the cat. Nicodemus then shows Mrs. Brisby his pensieve, I guess, showing images of the rats back when they were just ordinary street rats being captured by scientists and taken to the National Institute of Mental Health, or NIMH, or something for short. The mice were then injected with a serum that would give them human intelligence, as well as show trippy images from altered states to go along with it. The mice would then escape from their cages, but tragically, 9 of the mice would get sucked into a ventilation shaft to their deaths. But Jonathan and Mr. Aegis were able to save the surviving mice and escape from NYMPH. Now, with that all said, I just have one question. And I know I'm going to get 100,000 emails saying this, but I just want to get this off of my head. If the mice from Need or whatever were the only ones who got the serum, then how exactly did Mrs. Brisby and the other rats learn to talk? I mean, sure, Mrs. Brisby said that Jonathan taught her, but how exactly is that possible? I mean, Mrs. Brisby wouldn't have any voice box, and she also wouldn't be able to have such human characteristics like she has now with her robe and her hands. She would just be like a regular mouse, like the ones at the beginning. Or how about Jeremy, or the Great Owl? How did they learn to talk? Did they somehow get injected with the serum? Did they learn to talk from Jonathan? I know I'm just nitpicking at this, but they don't really give a clear explanation as to how some of these other characters can talk and communicate. Unless, of course, the serum rats have the Starfire touch. So Nicodemus gives Mrs. Brisby the magic medallion, in which any wearer with a courageous heart can give it its true power.
With Nicodemus out of the way, what's to stop us from taking over?
What if we're discovered?
Listen, the Brisby house is a large cement block. In the moving, what if it should fall?
An accident?
Of course. Once rid of Nicodemus, the plan will die. We can stay here as long as we like.
What about Justin?
Leave him to me. To me.
Dramatic evil echo.
So Justin and Nicodemus take Mrs. Brisby out to the house to finish what Jonathan started. Mrs. Brisby immediately puts the sleeping powder into Dragon's food, but she's unable to get back to Justin in time.
Put it outside.
Damn! Whoa! Watch your language there, Justin! G rating, buddy! G rating! Damn! 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 So now Mrs. Brisby is trapped in a cage. But while she's in there, she overhears Mr. Fitzgibbon calling the exterminator from to kill off the rats in the bush. Meanwhile, outside in the rain, Nicodemus is working to move the Brisby's cinderblock house out of the field and to safety, with the family still inside.
Martin! Auntie's afraid.
But Jenner has dirty deeds and they're done dirt cheap. As soon as the cinder block is in the right spot, he snaps the rope, causing the device to break, and the cinder block crashes down, killing Nicodemus instantly. Meanwhile, Mrs. Brisby finally breaks out of the cage, and after evading a zoned-out dragon, makes it back to the rats.
Nicodemus dead.
Oh no.
But Jenner spots the stone on Mrs. B's chest and tries to fight her for it, but Justin interferes. There's only one way to settle this. Mortal rat combats! So Jenner is wounded, but before he can pull a sneak attack on him, Sullivan throws his sword at Jenner, killing him. But now the Brisby's house is sinking into the mud. It seems like all hope is lost, but by using the power of Nicodemus' medallion, Mrs. Brisby is able to lift her house right out of the mud and finally get both the house and her family to safety. So now the rats make it to Thorn Valley, the Brisby's home is now safe, Timothy is now a bubble boy, I guess, and Jeremy finally finds a mate. And thus we have a happy ending to our tale.
Oh, Auntie Shrew. Oh, Auntie. Oh, no.
This movie rocks! A true animation classic. With its shiny colors, likable characters, and fairly intense scenes, this is a movie that pulls out all the stops. Many fans consider this to be Don Bluth's best film, although I'll admit, I consider The Land Before Time to be my favorite Bluth film, even though it did fall foul to the sequel curse, just like most of Bluth's other films. And oh, thank God there was no sequel to The Secret of NIMH. Holy crap, I said it right. I mean, seriously, a sequel to this movie? That would just ruin it. Completely ruin it. Sequel. Someone would actually make a sequel. Who would make a sequel? Oh, Pops, what you got off of Netflix this time? You and your movies. You and your... No. No!